Look at your hand. Really look at it. The lines on your palm, the shape of your knuckles, the way your thumb bends. Someone shaped all of this. Not recently, not in your lifetime, but someone, somewhere, is the reason your hand looks exactly the way it does. And here's the strange part, that someone is not one person. It's every single person and every single creature that ever lived in your direct line. Going back not hundreds of years, not thousands, billions. Let's start with the number that gets thrown around a lot, because it's worth actually sitting with. Inside every one of your cells, there is a molecule about 2 meters long, coiled up so tightly it fits inside a space 1,000th of a millimeter wide. You have roughly 37 trillion cells. If you unspooled all the DNA in your body and laid it end to end, it would stretch to the sun and back many times over. But that's not the part that should stop you. The part that should stop you is this. Every letter of that code, all 3 billion of them in each cell, was copied from someone else. Your parents, their parents, their parents' parents, and so on, back through every human who ever lived, back before humans existed at all. Here is the fact that biologists find hard to say out loud without sounding poetic. In your entire ancestral line, going back roughly 3.8 billion years to the first single-celled organisms, every single one of your direct ancestors survived long enough to leave descendants. Not one of them broke the chain. Every single one of them, in the moment that mattered, held on. Think about that for a second. There have been 5 mass extinctions on this planet. There have been ice ages, droughts, predators, plagues. There have been meteor strikes that erased most of what was alive. And through all of it, your line held. Not by luck alone. Each one of them carried something in their code that was just useful enough. A slightly sharper eye, a slightly stronger immune response, a slightly better ability to hold their breath or hide or run or love. And they passed it on to you. Now let's slow down and talk about what DNA actually is, because most of us learned it in school as a diagram and never really understood what we were looking at. DNA is a language with only 4 letters. A, T, C, G. That's it. 4 molecules, arranged in different orders, spelling out every instruction your body has ever needed. How to build an eye, how to grow a fingernail, how to feel afraid when you hear a sudden noise in the dark. The order of those letters is not random, but it's not perfectly deliberate either. It was shaped over billions of years by a slow, patient process. Many of the changes that survived either helped, did no harm, or simply drifted through generations by chance. The ones that hurt were quietly erased because the bodies carrying them didn't make it, which means the code inside you right now is, in a very real sense, a survival manual, edited by countless generations that survived long enough to pass it on. For you, let's pause here, because there is a scene I want you to picture. A grandmother in her kitchen, hands covered in flour. Her hands are old, the skin is thin, you can see the veins underneath. She is showing a child how to fold dough. Now the shape of her hands, the length of her fingers, the way her thumb curves, that came from her mother. Who got it from her mother? Who got it from a woman whose name no one alive remembers? Who got it from someone who lived in a village that no longer exists? Who got it from someone who lived before villages existed at all? The child watching her fold the dough is receiving something in that moment that has nothing to do with the recipe. The child is receiving the same code, copied, imperfectly but faithfully, one more time. And the child's hands, decades from now, will fold dough the same way. This is not sentiment, this is chemistry, and it gets stranger because it turns out DNA doesn't only carry what your body should look like, it seems to carry echoes of what your ancestors' bodies had to deal with. In 2013, researchers at Emory University trained mice to fear the smell of cherry blossoms by pairing it with a mild shock. Standard fear conditioning. Nothing surprising there. What was surprising is what happened next. The children of those mice who had never been shocked, who had never smelled cherry blossoms before, flinched the first time they were exposed to it. Similar effects were also observed in later generations, though the evidence there becomes less consistent. And here's the important part, because this is where the science gets misunderstood. The DNA sequence itself did not change. Instead, chemical marks sitting on top of it changed how certain genes behaved. This is called epigenetics. Methylation patterns, histone modifications, small tags that tell certain genes to switch on or off. And those tags, in some cases, appear to travel forward across generations, which means your ancestors' experiences may not have died entirely with them. In humans, the evidence is quieter, but it is there. In 1944, the Nazis blockaded the Western Netherlands, and for one winter, an entire population starved. Studies of the children conceived during that famine, and then of their grandchildren, found altered stress responses, altered risk of certain illnesses, bodies whose metabolism appears to have adapted to scarcity that had ended long before they were born. Which means somewhere inside you right now, there may be quiet chemical notes left by a hungry great-grandmother, a grandfather who ran from something, a great-great-great-grandmother who survived a winter no one remembers. You are, in the most literal sense, a letter they helped write to the future. And here is the part that is hard to hold in your head. The code inside your cells has been copied continuously for nearly 4 billion years, longer than almost anything alive has ever existed. Continents have moved, oceans have opened and closed, whole atmospheres have come and gone. And through all of it, without a single break, the copying continued. There was a time when oxygen in the atmosphere was rising fast, and to most life at the time, oxygen was a poison. Some ancient microbes evolved ways to tolerate it. Others eventually learned to use it. Those ancient innovations, refined over billions of years, eventually became part of the biology that keeps you alive today. You inherit the outcome of a crisis that ended before there was anything you would recognize as a plant or an animal. Let's go back to the grandmother in the kitchen, because this is what I want to leave you with, and I want to be careful with the words. We tend to think of ourselves as the point of the story, the main character, the reason the code exists. But the code was here long before you, and if things go well, it will be here long after. You are not the endpoint. You are the messenger, the one who happens to be carrying the letter right now, which is a strange thing to sit with, because it means the small decisions you make, the meals you eat, the fears you sit with, the people you love, the child you fold dough with are not just yours. They are additions, small edits, notes in the margin of a nearly 4 billion-year-old text that you are helping to write. And the child watching you, the friend across the table, the stranger you make room for on the sidewalk, they are all doing the same. All of them are books being copied forward. All of them are grandmothers in the making. Somewhere in your body right now, a cell is dividing. The 2 meters of code inside it are being carefully unzipped, read, and copied. It is happening billions of times a second, everywhere in you without your permission or attention. The message is still moving. It just runs through you now.